Hello, 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 and welcome, replay viewers. Make sure that you stay tuned to find out how to get out of your own way.
Hello, hello, hello,
Oops.
and welcome, replay viewers.
Apologies, I forgot to turn this off. I need this to check on the comments, etc. So, gosh, what a topic we have today. Because the thing is that this is such a widespread, broad, sweeping topic, actually, because there are so many ways that people can get in their own way when it comes to their business, when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And I just thought it was really important to cover this and talk about what you can actually do about it. But even before we get to that, I think just helping people to understand where they might be getting in their own way and not actually even realize it. A lot of the time people think, oh, I need to have a skill in this area. Oh, I'm not sure what to do or what the strategies are. Whereas actually it might be much more about the inner work that is actually causing the problem. Maybe if you had done the inner work and got out of your own way, if you did need to skill up, then you would quite easily find yourself finding the right information or course or book or podcast or whatever it would be. True? So let me know what you think, okay? So let me just share this out. So please share this out as well if you are watching. Let me just get this into my group, by the way. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Una Doyle. I'm the founder of Creative Flow TV, and I'm also the host of the Courageous Creatives Community. And you can see the name of that there in the what do you call that thing? The lower third. So you can search that or pop group in the comment and I'll message you with a link as well, or invite you if we're already connected. So share this out, please, so that everybody can get the opportunity to come in. I've just done that now. Fantastic. Okay, so here's some of the different ways that you could be getting in your own way. So number one, I hear this so much from people, okay? Procrastination. Now, a lot of the time procrastination is linked with being a perfectionist. Yet underneath that, and that is something that we can work on as well, by the way. But underneath that is quite often a fear of failure, a fear of success, maybe a fear of rejection. You know, you might, if you're putting something off that would mean you're actually putting yourself out there, then it might actually be, oh no, people might reject me. Maybe it's an issue around trust. You know, maybe that's your, that when you put yourself out there, you're not getting the response you want. But maybe it's because people aren't trusting you because you don't trust other people, and they're sensing that vibe, and that somehow, even though they don't know it, they're not sitting there thinking, I don't trust this person. But what they can be doing is going, oh, that sounds really interesting, but I want to think about it. Have you ever had that? Maybe that could be one of the reasons why. Being a people pleaser. I see so many posts from people, and this can really affect them in terms of how they're charging, in terms of talking about money and things, and setting boundaries. All of these are quite often wrapped up in wanting to make people happy and feeling, well, okay, well, maybe they can't afford this, so I want to make them happy. I want to please them. I don't want them to reject me or think that I'm not a nice person, so I'm going to give it to them for this price. And then I'm going to over-deliver because they keep asking for more. Like, particularly with creative services, you know, there's so much opportunity there to over-deliver, unfortunately. So it's really making sure that you're getting to what is actually underneath you being a people pleaser. Is it a lack of self-worth, not valuing yourself, putting other people's opinion above your own? Now, if you're recognizing any of these things, please make sure that you are giving some hearts, and that will help to bring more people in who can experience this as well. So the more comments and everything that we can have, then that helps to get this out there. So if you're watching the replay, just type #replay in the comments. And by the way, if you ask any questions, I will come back and answer them for you. Okay, so we're talking about boundaries and over-delivering. Big issue for many creatives that I talk with. Okay, and here's another one. Imposter syndrome. Have you heard of that? So this is where people feel like a fraud. And quite often these people are very successful already. They do attract opportunities. They are achieving great things. But on the inside, they're not enjoying it. In fact, it can be really stressful for them because they have this fear of, I'm going to get found out. When are they going to realize that I'm a fraud and I shouldn't have these achievements and these accolades? So it's really, I did a separate show just on that topic, and it was really interesting. Some of the most famous people like Meryl Streep, and Kate Winslet, and gosh, there was loads of like really famous actresses in this article that had talked about their imposter syndrome. So, don't feel like, oh my gosh, I can't talk about this with anybody. I've got to keep it to myself. What you've got to understand is that you're not alone. There are many, many people who feel this, who are experiencing these things, and they are affecting their business. Because the thing is that if you have imposter syndrome and you feel like a fraud, you feel like you're not good enough, then of course this is going to either stop you from putting yourself forward, or you will do it, but will you actually really go for it 100%? Will there be something in the way that you're doing is giving off a vibe of going, actually, I don't know if I want this, because if I get it, then I'm going to feel like a fake, and I don't want to feel like a fake, so I'd actually rather not get it. And this is the kind of conversations that could be going on in people's heads, or going on subconsciously, that you don't actually even know that is happening. So this is, another way that people can get in the way of themselves and their business success. Okay, stress, worry, pressure, anxiety, and even depression. Now, I've seen this a lot with creatives, and I think it might be because we tend to be quite sensitive, and sometimes that means we're very empathic, that we actually pick up on other people's feelings, which can be a fantastic strength. Okay, for me as a coach, it's a great strength to be empathic. But before I got rid of these kinds of issues, it meant that I constantly was feeling other people's crap. And then that made me feel bad. And so one of the great things about being able to release all these issues is that now I can make the distinction between kind of going, is this my stuff? No, this isn't. No, of course it's not my stuff. I don't feel like this anymore. I don't think these things anymore. This is somebody else. And to be able to recognize that, it's so liberating. It's amazing. And I think one of the other things for creatives is that we tend to be very achievement focused and task focused. We want to work. We love creating and making things happen. And if you're in the situation where you're not doing that, or maybe because you're undercharging and you may be going for the wrong clients, and not putting yourself out there in terms of getting clients in enough, then it could be that you're actually not getting to do the creative work that you want. And that's soul destroying. And so I think that in itself can lead people to feel pretty down about themselves, and to get into a kind of vicious cycle of the more they feel like that, the less they do to actually make their situation better. So then the more, the worse that they feel. So it can just be this downward spiral, unfortunately. And I saw a post the other day in a group for creative people, not my one, it was a different one. And it was, somebody was saying, does anyone else struggle with anxiety and depression and running a business? And it's really hard. What do you do? Can you recommend me some books and podcasts? And I actually commented and said, look, there's some lovely recommendations here, but if this is how you feel, you're probably not going to get the shifts that you really need from watching a show just like this, okay? That actually needs to be some one-on-one work to release what is beneath this, all right? And it definitely is possible, to do that. Perhaps not for everybody, but there are many people I know who've used the tool I'm going to share with you to be able to do that. And, it's just fantastic for them to be able to get their life really back on track. Give me some hearts if you think that is a good idea. So, hey Imran, hey Jamie. Yes, Jamie, I will definitely add you to my group. Imran, you're already in my group as well, I think, aren't you? So I'd love to know, like, what are the things that kind of you think are getting in your way the most as well, and I can kind of talk about those a bit more specifically. But I've got, one of the things about kind of stress and worry is that quite often people can be stressed because they are out of flow. And if you've been watching me for a while, I talk about being in flow a lot and actually working to your strengths and structuring your business and your life so that it is much easier for you, so that you're not making things hard on yourself. So that can be one aspect of stress. If you're out of flow, if you're not getting to use your strengths, or if you're having to spend too much time in your areas of weakness, that can definitely cause stress. But a lot of stress and worry is actually down to thinking about, what's ahead, either feeling overwhelmed by it or being worried about what might go wrong. And the thing about worry is it's basically a waste of your imagination, because when you're worrying, you are creating, you're imagining all the things that could possibly go wrong that haven't happened. What if you instead were to imagine all the things that could potentially go right? And that actually would make it so much more likely that would happen. So I just think, the pressure that we put on ourselves sometimes to be right, to be perfect. So Jamie's talking here, getting started on big tasks, perfectionism. Yeah, I will talk about that in a moment. And some of that can be about the pressure about proving all of these things can kind of all feed into it. And one other thing that I can see a lot as well is where people take things personally. Have you ever seen anybody overreact? Give me some hearts if you've ever seen anyone overreact. And you're kind of going, what's wrong with this person? This is only a little thing. Okay, this is a little molehill, and they're making a mountain out of this molehill. Have you ever experienced that? Pop a 1 in the comments if you have experienced that, because it's so easy. And you might have experienced it where you're taking things personally, and you could be in your head recognizing it, or maybe you don't even. Maybe it's a few days later and you think, oh yeah, I kind of got really upset about that situation, and did it really warrant it? Well, no, but I really felt upset. And a lot of the time when this happens, it's not the situation that's in front of you that is actually the issue. It is going way past in the back, in your past, when you were a child or a young adult, when things happened and you created a story around it that meant that anything like this that happened again meant that you were at fault, you were to blame, that you somehow were wrong, that you weren't good enough. And so when something happens, it's like a trigger, boom, you have this Pavlovian type response where, you just automatically respond, or rather react. You're not responding because, you can choose to respond differently to things, but it's very difficult to do that when you have these emotional triggers. And I think that's one of the things I see a lot with people who maybe have done a lot of personal development, and then they're saying to me, well, I know how I should feel. I know how I should react, but I can't do it when I'm in that situation. And this is the problem with a lot of, kind of tools and techniques, is that it's very hard when you're in the middle of being stressed to actually apply those properly. So let me just have a look then at, so the perfectionism, I think when getting started on big tasks, it's important to break them down into little chunks. And perhaps for you, Jamie, I know you're probably a very good planner. So because you do have that attention to detail that some other creators wouldn't have. However, maybe you want to break things down into phases. So here's a project and there's 5 phases to it. Here's phase 1. That is all I'm going to focus on right now. So that's a practical thing that you can do. Another thing, I heard somebody on a live just in the last couple of days saying that they wouldn't start on something because They were talking about the example of a lead magnet, some kind of freebie that you could offer your clients. And so they'd have these great ideas for them, but then they wouldn't do it because they were like, well, to do it properly, I'd need the lead magnet, but then I also need a follow-up email sequence, and I need a sales page and payment process, all these different things. And again, you can do the same thing. Find out, do people actually even want this lead magnet before you spend all this time doing the other things? So it's really about, doing things so they are good enough. They don't have to be perfect. But when you feel on the inside like things do have to be perfect, if they're not perfect, then I don't get to prove myself. If they're not perfect, then other people are going to judge me. If they're not perfect, then I have failed. If they're not perfect, then other people are going to judge me. So can you see how there can be all these different things going on underneath that can cause this? Think of it this way, right? Imagine that you have a forest. Now, depending on your age and experience and your life, the lessons that you've already learned, the lessons you have yet to learn, then each tree is like an issue. So one might be anger, another might be fear, another could be abuse, another could be procrastination, another could be focus, another could be valuing others, another could be worry, another could be pressure. Now the thing is that quite often we see, when we're looking at this forest, we only see the leaves. And maybe if we take a deeper look, we see the branches. But really, to get rid of that issue, you've got to, excuse the not environmentally friendly aspect of this analogy, but I haven't got a better one yet. But what you need to do is pull up that tree, that issue, right from the roots. But if you think about a forest, is that there is an actual interdependency between the trees, that their roots are intertwined. And sometimes it might take pulling up 1, 2, 3 trees to solve one issue. Do you see what I mean? Now, pulling up those other couple of ones will also help the ones around it. And what I just really want to say is that, the answer is sometimes a bit complex. It doesn't mean that it's not simple to get rid of it, but it just means that you need to allow for the fact that things are intertwined. And it's not necessarily, many times with this tool I'm going to tell you about, one session, boom, that problem is solved and they go off really happy. Okay, so that can happen. But often it takes a few sessions to really be able to get at the roots of that issue and the intertwined things for it to be gone, and then to be gone for good. And this is what I found is so amazing about this. And just to give you a quick little bit of background, I don't want to go into it in too depth because I'm actually going to be bringing the founder of this tool onto one of the shows in the coming weeks, which I'm really excited about. Her stories are amazing. But I started using this tool when I started as a life coach many years ago, and we're talking over a decade now. And it was really interesting because I experienced it for myself. And then a few months in, I just kind of like, okay, yeah, I just want to do it all. I want to give it all to me. I want to get rid of all this crap. I'm fed up with my life not being the way I want it to be and feeling bad about myself. And so I was a few months in and I said, look, I need to use this with my clients. Will you teach me? And so she said yes. And I was actually one of the first people, I was the first person she ever taught. And then several of my clients actually became specialists in this as well. So what it is, it's called Lotus Seed Life, or LSL. Makes it a lot easier to say. And I'll let Vicky, who's the founder of it, tell you about its origins and how it all came about. But I just wanted you to kind of understand a bit about it, so that when we work on these issues with LSL, then it means you can apply the strategies, you can apply the knowledge, you can learn the skills, and you won't be getting in your own way. And I've been working with people in recent years very much on the strategies and the skills and the structures, and providing them accountability and support. And yes, of course, I was coaching them through to help them to be more confident and, to actually implement things. But I was finding that, a proportion of people I was left thinking, are they going to keep doing this when they've stopped working with me? Or is their stuff going to get in the way? So I've decided I am going to be integrating this into my packages going forward. And people also, if they feel, actually, I know what to do with my business and I'm doing it, but I want to resolve the personal stuff, then you can do that on its own as well, because it's still going to be getting in your way. So a little bit about it is that it actually works with all 4 lobes of your brain. It works with your whole physiology. It works with your whole energetic body system. And that means that it lasts. And like, there are things that I've worked on years ago. I don't need to do them again because I already did them. And I still have the benefit of those. In fact, every session you do, over time, it's like a snowball, that the impact of it gets bigger and bigger as you go through your life. You know, think about a big ship. If you only take a teensy course direction, after it's sailed, you know, thousands of miles, you've ended up in a different place. And this is what this will allow you to do. It is empowering, and it is actually working with your brain's neuroplasty. Have you heard of that? It's where you've got, our brains, as we have thoughts, we actually create neural pathways. So, think of your brain as having all these different paths going around, but there is a certain amount of elasticity to that. You can actually, with this tool, that helps you to shut off the pathways that you don't want, those negative patterns, and to be able to create new ones. And that is really phenomenal. It is so empowering to be able to choose how you feel, to be able to choose your responses in a situation. To give you an example, if you've heard a bit of banging about, that's my fiance. We've had a leak he noticed just as we were going to bed last night, he noticed there's some water on top of the bathroom cabinet. Oh my gosh, it's coming through the extractor fan, right? And so I went to sleep. I said, well, is it gushing out? He said, no. I went, okay, let's deal with it in the morning. And I turned over and went to sleep. Now, I didn't worry about it. I didn't get stressed about it. I just thought I'll be able to deal with it in the morning. If we have to pay some money for a repair, fine, we'll make the extra money and it'll all be grand, And, we've got a wedding to pay for this year. But I wasn't going to be worrying about it. I was choosing my response, and it was easy to do that because I didn't have all this stuff in the way. And this is what I want for you. Okay, I want this for you so that you can have the same empowering choices, to be able to take much more control of your life in a positive way. A lot of the time people are kind of trying to control life, and it's like a piece of soap that they're holding onto so hard it just pops out of their hands. And that's not the kind of control I'm talking about. I'm talking about inner peace, okay? Peace is actually the absence of conflict. And so often people are, well, I have this desire, but they're kind of like, oh, I want to do this. Let's put some foot on the gas, put foot on the accelerator. But then there's a part of you going, well, no, actually, I don't want that. And they put the foot on the brake. Now, I don't know if you've ever put your foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time, but you don't go anywhere. So the brake stops you, or certainly slows you down. And this is what these inner issues can do if you're experiencing them. So look, what I would like to say to you is, if you want to find out more about this, if you want to experience it for yourself, then we can arrange that. So in the first step, just pop call in the comments, and I will message you about how to book a call with me. And I'll also just change the settings so you can message me directly through the video. If you prefer to do that, if you want to make it more private, that's absolutely fine. And if you've got any questions about what I've talked about, then just pop them in the comments and I'll be happy to come back later. I'll get my little notification and I'll come back later and answer your questions for you. So if you had value from what I've been talking about here today, then make sure that you like the page and that you click the button so that you get notified of future live videos that I'm doing. I'm here every Wednesday, same time, 5 p.m. UK, noon EST, and talking about different topics. I'm going to have a few interviews coming up as well over the next few weeks. Everything from legal support to interviewing Vicky, the founder of Lotus Seed Life, and many other things that can be really helpful for you as a creative service provider or creative business owner. Okay, so and do please remember to share this out and give lots of hearts, and that will help more people to see this, because I'm really on a mission to help creatives to be more successful, to be able to confidently and profitably stand out from the crowd, do creative work that fills their hearts with pride, and all without feeling like they're selling their soul. Right, I'm going to wrap this up now. Thank you so much for joining me, and let me know what you thought. I'd love to know your opinion, and like, share, comment, and I will see you very soon. Bye.